ease for personnel, there would be some shifting of those personnel, maybe between schools or between grades, and this reflects one of those shifts. We need to shift 2 teachers into 6th grade to cover the enrollment that's leaving the elementary schools.
Well, I guess that's what I was getting at earlier. So are you
That's right.
comfortable we can shift 2 teachers? Because I know while elementary enrollments go down, often it's not down enough so we can get rid of a teacher, because then we end
Correct.
up with 2 classes of 18 going to 1 class of 36 or something like that, which we can't.
In one
do.
school, there will be fewer classes at a particular grade level than this year.
Okay.
So we will realize 1 full FTE. In the other 2 elementary schools, as you just said, it's, the enrollments aren't shifting enough to recoup 1 full position. But we have some shifts that are going on at the kindergarten level. We just had registration. The enrollment numbers are very low, but we're keeping an eye on those. Be that as it may, we're thinking that we may be able to recoup some additional funds at that grade level. So we need to make some shifts to cover those 2 teachers because we need them in the 6th grade. Another need that we have in the 6th grade is the health education teacher. Because we have so many students moving into 6th grade from 5th, when they're split up to go to related arts, they're split in half, and half go to one rotation and half go to another rotation of related arts courses. To only have 2 PE teachers with half of the students for next year would put those PE classes well into the 30s.
Yeah.
So a health teacher would accomplish 2 things. It would reduce enrollment, and it would also introduce a much-needed health education course at the middle school level.
Right now, we have it where the phys ed teachers are teaching a partial
That's
health
correct.
course, correct?
That's correct. So it's not that we're without, but we need more.
Right.
So that was what Principal Fauché came up with. And to eliminate, or to partially eliminate study halls, he is also suggesting the hiring of a technology education teacher. Now, this is not computer technology. This is technology education under the science curriculum frameworks. So we're talking about that kind of tech ed. That's the pre-physics kind of technology. So scooting back up to North Reading High School, you can see that there are 2 requests for next year, one of them being a special education teacher. We have a language-based program that's moving from the middle school, or some students from the middle school are moving to the high school. So we're going to need to find a way to fund that position. And we have students moving from the elementary into the middle school, so it's not like we can take that middle school program and just transplant it to the high school. We need to maintain that because students are moving up through the system. I already spoke about the middle school. At the Batchelder School, there is a request for 2 inclusion paraprofessionals, and 1 inclusion paraprofessional is requested at the Little.
You
Again-
skipped the guidance counselor at the high school?
Oh, that's a request, yes, I'm sorry, there's a request for the guidance counselor
I
at the high
point
school.
that out because our guidance counselors are at the max, in my opinion. We
They
have
are.
3 guidance counselors for over 700 students, and that's just not, to me, it's not, I know they're close to the maximum number that the state recommends, and we really don't want to have them at the max.
That's correct.
Especially in the senior year with all the college application.
And I believe this isn't the first time that
No,
Principal
it's about
Bernard
the-
has
it's about the 4th
requested
time.
the guidance counselor at the
Yeah.
high school. So again, he included it for FY12. We recognize that maybe not all of these are going to be funded.
Right.
But the principals were asked to tell me what was necessary in order to move the school forward. And you can see they're not extravagant requests. Right now at the J. Turner Hood School, we're feeling that staffing for next year is at an appropriate level. The Little is looking for a paraprofessional. So what I've asked our PPS director, Patty Bullard, to do is to map out the current use of all of our instructional paraprofessionals that we currently have in place under special education, to make sure that the current staffing is required for students that will be with us. We do have some students that will be graduating that may not require the assistance of, well, they won't require an assistance of a paraprofessional once they leave the school district. So I want to make sure that we can recoup some finances to be able to cover the costs of these inclusion paraprofessionals for next year, because we've identified these needs through the team process with students that are already on individual education plans. And finally, if you take a look at the district, you can see that there is a request to, bless you, to hire an additional technology technician. We currently have two, one that's primarily focused on hardware and one that's focused on data management. So we're requesting a technology technician, as well as increasing the current secretary to the director of academic services from a 0.8 to a 1.0. So that would be increasing that position by 0.2, so that that person works 5 days a week. Because that person isn't just responsible for curriculum, that person also works with our Director of Academic Services on technology. And there's been a request for a behavior program to be implemented at the middle school. So you can see that we are requesting a total of 11.2 positions for FY12 for an additional cost of $435,000 should we not be able to cover any of these positions in the existing budget.
So right now, none of these are really in the budget. We would have to find $435,000 worth of current positions that we could move into these slots in order to fill these.
That's correct.
Within the budget that Carl presented tonight.
Right.
Okay.
But through attrition, we're hoping to be able to put the 2 6th grade positions in, so you would minus that $90,000.
And would those teachers essentially follow that group through the 7th and 8th grade, or how would that?
Well, no, because the enrollments, if you remember, there's a bubble of enrollments,
right.
And so we have to make sure that we're taking a look from year to year at
Right.
those enrollments. You can see in the in FY13, to answer your question regarding that, there's a request for 2 grade 7 teachers
Right.
to follow that enrollment
Okay.
increase from one year to the next, but maintaining the grade 6 because of the enrollment following behind.
Okay.
And you can see that in FY14, we're talking about increasing the grade 8 by 2 teachers.
So it doesn't drop off enough in those next 2
Not
years?
enough.
Okay.
But there will be a drop-off eventually. It's
Right.
just that we have a bubble moving through.
So by 2014, we're talking of 6 additional teachers at the high school. At the middle school.
That's correct.
Got basic classroom teachers, be it science or whatever, math, English,
That's correct.
language arts.
That's correct.
Where do we put them?
That's what I was going to ask.
We're going to have a new school, aren't we? No.
Oh, wait, we might by 2014, that's right.
No.
But
That would be the challenge. We're going to need to be taking a look at the way that space is currently being used and rethink.
yeah, we'd really have to rethink.
That's right. We are. We're going to have to.
Okay.
Central office may not have a home.
Central office may have to move somewhere
We
else.
may have to go someplace else, but we have to consider that.
Right.
Truly.
Yeah.
Because they may need to recoup some space, but everything's on the table at that point.
Okay.
So going back up into FY13, and we take a look ahead, Principal Bernard at the high school would love to be able to add a health education teacher into the high school, as well as a world languages teacher. He'd like to bring on board another science math teacher, and we want to start another program at the high school. It's a post-high school special education program for those students that are between 19 and 22 to get them prepared for what's happening after high school. And that would be an additional teacher.
Would that teacher allow us to maybe keep some students in-house rather than sending them out of the district?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then you can see that we're due for an accreditation site visit for the high school.
Oh, yeah.
And so we need to make sure that we're appropriating funds to be able to cover that site visit. And typically, it costs between $10,000 to $15,000 to house, to feed, and to accommodate the site visit from NEASC. At the middle school, you can see in FY13, we're asking for another related arts teacher to wipe out social study halls completely from the middle school. We're also asking, and you'll see this through the middle school and the elementary schools, an instructional technology specialist that's dedicated specifically to the middle school for the integration of technology into instruction. And then I've already talked about the 7th grade teachers. At the Batchelder School, you can see that we're asking for an instructional technology specialist dedicated to the Batchelder School. We're also looking for a receptionist at the Batchelder School. It is our largest elementary school. Currently, enrollment is approximately 632 students. It's a large school,
Wow.
and we have one secretary.
Wow.
So there is a need. And you can see that, you're going to see this in all 3 elementary schools as well, that we would be looking for literacy math tutors to assist us with providing response to intervention services to those students that haven't quite learned what we want them to learn as we administer benchmark assessments on a regular basis. So you can see that it equates to about $45,000, but we're not talking about necessarily hiring full-time people. We're looking to contract services up to about 60 hours per week for a total in the area of literacy and mathematics. That theme is repeated. At the Hood School, you can see we are requesting an instructional technology specialist in FY13 dedicated solely to the Hood School for the integration of instructional technology into classroom instruction. We're also looking for literacy math tutors. I'm not quite sure why there's a change from one year to the next. All right, you know, I think that the Batchelder School is incorrect. It should not say 45,000.
Should say 64,800.
It should say 64,800.
Okay.
Yes, I apologize for that. And it should say 2, an equivalent of 2 positions, but maybe not the same person doing all the hours. And then, so you can see that that request has been made at the Hood School. And then at the Little School, again, same request, instructional technology specialists dedicated to the Little with the literacy and math tutors. And at the district level, we are looking to increase our custodial staff by 1 person. We would like to employ a K-8 library media specialist that would oversee the library media program from kindergarten through grade 8. And at the district level, we would like to begin another district-wide special education program at the elementary level on social pragmatics. This would be dealing with students that may have some behavioral issues. So we call it social pragmatics. For a total of 20 additional FTEs to the tune of $847,600. And in FY14, you saw that we are at this point, because we recognize that for any given year when we don't, we're not able to hire a position that we're requesting, we'll bump it out to the next year. So we, in fact, anticipate bumping positions out to FY15. But right now you can see that we wanted to plan for those 2 teachers at grade 8. So right now you're just seeing an FTE of 2.0 at 90,000. And I just wanted to bring your attention to the next page because you had asked me what had been reduced.
Right.
And what's being included in this budget and what would be new. So what Carl had done was to take a look at all of the reductions that have taken place over the course of the last several years and come to find out a lot of those reductions had been reinstituted over the course of the years into the local budget. But you can see that under these reductions, the International Cultures course at the middle school was eliminated. That was essentially a family and consumer science course back then. And so what John is saying is that we don't want to reinstate that. We want to put tech ed into the middle
But
school
that was
now.
part of that arts rotation, and by getting rid of it is what caused us to have
That's
to have
right.
more study halls.
That's correct. So now he's saying let's put technology education in under the science area. We really want to beef up our science program. And so it would be a redesign. As far as the 1.0 technology integration specialist that was cut, we would like to increase that by 3 more. So we'd be putting 4 in. The 1.5 library paraprofessionals and the 1.5 computer paraprofessionals would be included in that redesign that I've just talked to you, which would be hiring instructional technology specialists along with a K-8 library media specialist to oversee the entire program for library science at the middle school and at the elementaries. At 1.0 library paraprofessional at the high school, that's not a request